Well, good morning. It's a Monday morning. It's about 9 o'clock. I was up though. I was already out, met with some oil field people. They had a leaking pipeline or something, so trying to figure out what to do about that. They were waiting until we got the crop off, which we did get over the weekend. We finished up the wheat. I'm thinking a 35-40 average, something like that. You can see though the power pole right there. We put that up yesterday because yesterday it rained. It rained basically all morning. Drizzled, rained, whatever you want to call it. So anyways, now that little water shack way up there, that's an insulated building that we had built, cut a hole in the floor because there used to be, 2, 4, 6, and then the very far water way up there. There was 7 underground waters set up there and a whole bunch of pens and everything. Before Corey and I even lived here, we took all that down. It was all rough lumber and it was all 30 plus, 40 plus years old. So it was in poor shape. The lean-tos on either side and the barn up there are the only things that remained. We decided to tin them as opposed to take them down because they were still in relatively decent shape. But all the corral panels and stuff that were out exposed were all rotten and everything. And then the one water that was up there, we actually took it off and we put it on a pallet and put a garden hose attachment on it so we could have water, when we move the animals into this bush or behind the house or whatever. We're trying to move the critters around to clean up the bush. So anyways, what I'm getting at is there was just a hydrant or a hose basically sticking out of the ground up there. We had a cone over it, but if you were going to plow snow up there and stuff like that, run the risk of hitting it. And now that she's got all these critters, and the pigs are way up there and so on and so forth, we thought you can always use another place to, because it's insulated. So we are going to put a little heater in there. So it'll be no different than our skate shack on the lawn, I guess. It'll be whatever, above zero when it's minus 40 or 30 outside. So when you go up to feed the critters, you can step in there, fill your water bucket or whatever, if that's what you need to be doing, or just kind of get out of the cold for a minute. Kind of maybe a bit bougie because, 70 years ago, they certainly didn't have that option. They were barely warm in the house, let alone warm out in the barnyard. So, in fact, some might argue it was warmer in the barn because the animals were in there. But anyways, we're doing what we can. Try to make things easier, better, more visually appealing, things like that. Strangely enough, too, the wheat out here, which was seeded first, and I thought was doing better than out west, but I mean, it was very poor too. We actually had to end up drying some of it. So, not all of it, but some of it for sure. So we had the dryer going. We dried some of that wheat. Then when we went out west, that wheat was all like 11, and it looked way redder. So I guess red doesn't even matter anymore. They don't buy on color. That used to be a grading factor, but now their machines are so sophisticated that as soon as they plug it into the machine, it spits out protein and falling number and all that stuff right away. Anyway, so the wheat was all gradable. Number 1 was the 4 loads I hauled in. Number 1, and the protein was anywhere from 15 to 16. So kind of excited about that. There is a premium up to about 14.5. But anyways, I got a text there. We're in the business in the market for a livestock trailer. I think the little one's going to join 4-H this year, and we don't have a trailer, so we've been always relying on friends and neighbors to do everything for us. And I gotta say, we have one heck of a good community developed with our whole thing here, the feed and whatnot, because when we were talking to the folks that have always been there to help us move animals or pick up animals, and we're like, you know what, I think time to grow up, we should probably buy our own trailer. And they were all unanimously like, no, don't buy one, just call us, we'll come move your stuff for you. But realistically, I appreciate it, but let's be honest, do you want to get a call at, hey, can you come move my stuff tomorrow, and you already had plans? You can't be doing that. So anyways, we're going to I think we found one. A neighbor out west has one for sale. So I know Corey really wants a 15 one. She just likes pulling those better. But now that she bought her expedition thing, and apparently that has a tow package and has enough HP to at least pull the empty trailer around, we thought, well, we may as well get a bumper pull because she's got the expedition, and that way if she wants to take it somewhere and get some sheep or some pigs or some emus or some ostriches or whatever, she doesn't need to take the truck all the time. So anyways, we'll see. Hopefully today, she was going to go over there today and have a look, because I went 3 months ago and looked at this thing, and it's in really, really good shape. But livestock and livestock trailering and 4-H and all that stuff is basically her department, so I kind of stay out of it, let her make her own decisions for what she thinks is best. But anyways, enough about all that. I got about 2.5 tons of feed to make this morning, and then I got to take the straight cut headers off the combines, put the pickups back on, maybe blow them off a little bit, fuel them up, check the oil. The 9750 was running flawlessly with its new injector, so I'm hopeful that was the problem. And then maybe this afternoon, if the sun comes out, we will go combine some canola. So we only have that basically 600 acres left of canola to do. Some of it was swathed 2.5 weeks ago. Some of it was swathed a week ago. So there's basically probably only 2 quarters we can get right now. I know the neighbors and stuff were out combining. So I think it is dry. Hopefully it's all of quality and not just a wreck. But I wanted to point out one more thing here. So overcast, cool, rain, drizzle rain yesterday. So the ground is still all wet. The sun hasn't really come out. And that's one of the reasons why we try to do so much late August, mid-August, early September. You know, when folks are like, oh, it's early, what's your rush? It's because, you know, if you had waited till now, your hours of combining a day, they drop from like 14 down to like 6, right? You most likely aren't going to get going much before noon because the dew and it's got to warm up and get the dew off the swaths and stuff. And then if the wind doesn't stay up and there isn't isn't even a breath of wind at the moment, if the wind goes down or doesn't come up, you're often, as soon as the sun goes down, which is like 7 o'clock, then you're hooped again. So you get only a few hours there. And then if you get some breakdowns or some other impediments that slow you up, you can really drag your harvest out to like, you know, right around that Halloween, even into November. So anyways, we shouldn't get there unless we have just nothing but bad luck from here on out. We should wrap things up in basically the next week or so, weather permitting. I do gotta, yeah, anyways, let me get going here. Good afternoon. So just like that, it's 1 o'clock. Didn't get a whole bunch done today. I did get 2.5 tons. So I did get my 2.5 tons made. Then I talked for like an hour and a half with a gentleman that came for some molasses. And then I talked with another gentleman for like an hour that came for a half a tote of chicken feed. And then we just went on a little bit of a farm tour with a gentleman that came for another half bag of 4-H feed. So that's how that goes. About 4 hours of chatting from, not to mention this morning when I was out with the pipeline people. And I don't know why I had to be involved in that, but anyways, I was. So anyways, now I'm going to take the headers off these combines. It's starting to spit a little bit. You know, back to that whole thing where, you know, if we would have been just sitting around waiting for everything to ripen up on its sweet own time, right about now was the time everything would have been ready, and the weather starts to change, right? No more sunshine. No drying hours in the day, kind of just drizzles away, and now actually if you get a big rain on something like cereals, your quality actually starts to go the other way. So anyways, Corey went off this morning though and checked this out, came back with a trailer. So I went and looked at it a while ago, and then we sort of hummed and hawed about it because we did have the option of freeloading off of friends and family, but I mean, a guy doesn't really want to be doing that more than you should. So anyway, she just picked this up 16 feet more than certainly more than we need, but it's looks like it's in very, very good shape. So we are now in the trailering business, I guess. So I'm going to head over here now, though, and get these headers off. We are done with the straight cutting, so headers can come off. I'll put the pickups on. I'll put the combines in the shed so they don't get just rained on for no reason. And then, I don't know, maybe go hand shell out some of that canola and just see what it looks like. I've seen and heard tell from the neighbors here that the quality is good, so hopefully that's the case. I did hear that it's super dry, so maybe if we get a day or two of rain on it, it'll actually rehydrate some of that seed, because you end up losing a little bit of yield when that happens, right? If you've got something that's considered dry at 8.5% or 9% or maybe 10%. I don't actually know what canola is considered dry at. We try to keep it down to like 8.5 for long-term storage. But if it's dry at that, and the elevator, that's what they pay you, and they don't dock you anymore for drying. If you go down to 6, right, there's 2% of water that you've lost in. And on a small farm like ours, it's probably insignificant. We don't grow that many bushels of it, but on a big farm, I can see where it would be frustrating. I think these headers are backwards. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me have a look. Let's see. We'll just put it on here anyways and see how it goes. Also worth pointing out, I think, is so when we never got a book for these headers, right? We never bought one of them new. They either came with the combines or, we just bought them off of Kijiji, sort of a deal. But this one on this 9750, and we weren't sure if it was the tire issue, because I doubt these are original tires, right? These are probably aftermarket tires. So maybe that's made the combine sit crooked or unlevel or whatever you want to call it, or certainly off of what they, what it was designed for the header. Maybe this part here that is your lateral tilt for your feeder house, maybe that's made the header not sit straight or whatever. So anyways, I got to looking, and on that combine, the header floats just so smooth on the ground. You almost don't even have to run the button. You just put it down and go. This one, you're always up and down and left and right. But on that header, these look just like this. And on this header, these bolts were screwed way up, and there was actually a protective plate over here. So we took that plate off and we backed these all the way down, just like on the other header. And there's a few of them. I think there's 7. Maybe there's 8. Anyways, so we got them back down, not even all the way, but what that did was it actually tilted the knife up. So that whole entire knife tilted up. And then I still let out like 5 pounds out of the back tires just to see if that helped. And then when she finished cutting the wheat, she's like, oh man, we should have done that like 10 years ago, because she was digging up almost no dirt. I shouldn't say none, but very little. It still has the problem with the lateral tilt that it doesn't do it itself. So about the time you see that you're digging in on one side and put it down, you're just in time to put it down to dig in on that side. And because she's always got a kid or two with her, she can't, she's got that to pay attention to too. So she does a very good job. They both do. But if you have a 930 header and it seems to be digging into the dirt or not cutting right, that is your adjustment along the back there. Well, another day. We got the boss man over there unloading molasses. We did try canola yesterday. Looks like 14. And I counted maybe 2, 3 green ones, depending on who's looking. Oh, yes. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for us for the evening. Unfortunately, you don't get to see much actual work being done, I guess, but you get to see the after. So there used to be 2 bins there, and now they're over there. So Corey and I just finished that. I made my feed this morning, and then these five bins, they used to be in a line there. If you didn't know that already, we just put them in that circle this summer. So there was already a bunch of gravel there and it was really, really hard. So we smoothed that all out and raked it and got it relatively level, I think. And then we just popped those bins up on top of those mats that were sitting over there. I picked them up last winter. So that's where they're gonna live. That's gonna be their home. I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna put in them. I know there's lots of folks looking for all sorts of things, you know, like those complete feed pellets and stuff like that. So I might actually put those in there. I might, who knows? I don't know what. Might put might fill them up with barley so they're just down here and I can roll right out of them. I don't know, but it's nice that they're there. Of course, we're probably going to need them for our canola for right off the bat because grain prices are not at an all-time high right now. I don't know if you can hear me from the wind, but anyways, hopefully you can. So we're going to obviously be binning and having maximum capacity. Like everything's going to be at maximum for storage so we can ride this out. I do strongly believe the prices are going to make a correction. Probably never back to the highs that we saw 2-3 years ago, but they got to recover because it's, I mean, like agriculture is not sustainable right now for the grain guys with the way and this isn't a complaint, this is just a reality. It's not sustainable with the way we've been pushed to go. And I shouldn't say we as in me, but basically ag as a whole. Land rents are through the roof, inputs are through the roof, machinery prices are through the roof. So there's been so many folks that felt they needed to expand aggressively, pay those high rents, farm to the teeth, pay all those high inputs, and then buy the latest and greatest technology. And their cost per acre just on equipment alone can be upwards of $200 an acre, depending on what they've spent and how big of land base they have. So if the prices don't correct for those folks, you're going to start to see loans in the millions of dollars at 8-9% interest start to be defaulted on. I think I could be wrong, but there's just not you know, I was offered from a grain broker, of course I didn't take it, picked up in the yard something like $350 or $360 for barley. That's like 40-year ago pricing. That's just ridiculous. I mean, at least 30-year ago pricing. So anyways, that's that. We can do a whole thing on that later. This I know was a hodgepodge video too, but as I say, like, it's almost impossible for me to film and do the work. It's just not, it's not possible. So I don't know. It is what it is. Corey's got to take the kids to hockey. The other one's getting off the bus. The other one's sleeping. Maybe later I'll go up and show you that watershed. Dad's actually in town. He had an appointment, I think an eye appointment. So he was going to pick me up a breaker box panel to finish that up. But anyways, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all on the next one.